Va.
In September 2010, shortly after the governor of Arizona made some statements that suggest ignorance toward the issue of immigration, Episcopalians from all over the country met in Phoenix, Arizona, to discuss immigration issues and the Episcopal Church. At the same time, the House of Bishops met also in Phoenix. Tonight, I'm with Seth, Polley, who is a priest in Arizona. Tell us about the work that you do.
I'm the border missioner for the Episcopal Diocese of Arizona. I also serve 2 congregations in Arizona in the southeast corner of the state, St. John's Bisbee and St. Stephen's Douglas. And I've been doing that, it'll be 5 years in March, so about 4.5 years. I live there in Bisbee with my wife and my daughter. And in addition to serving the 2 parishes, I do border work. And that includes a number of things. Advocacy on the border, hosting groups on the border, and educational efforts around the diocese. And whoever would like me to come and talk about immigration and the border issues. And what's interesting about this particular gathering and this time is that only just yesterday we concluded what I like to call as Bob, Bishops on the Border. And Kirk Smith hosted us beginning on September 13th. About 40 bishops or so from all over the church came to Douglas, Arizona for 2 nights, and they gathered. We entered into Mexico. We saw all sorts of sites where ministry occurs for and to migrants, and also the communities of Agua Prieta, Mexico, and Naco, Mexico, in the state of Sonora. And so they ventured into Mexico. Then also they participated in a vigil called Healing Our Borders. This is a weekly vigil in Douglas, Arizona, to remember those who have died in the desert crossing over from Mexico into the United States. Following that, we had dinner and then a panel discussion to discuss these with law enforcement and medical personnel, an agricultural, a rancher, and faith and activism. And so we had a very good time together, and I hope very much that our journey is only beginning together with the bishops of the church and this diocese and the issues around immigration that are so important to the country right now.
Is there a sense of how many people die on the border as they try to come to the U.S.?
Well, people die every year coming to the border. And what happens, as I understand it, is oftentimes people will cross as a group. But if someone is injured, or injured is a good example, the group will go on and they'll leave an injured person behind. Or if somebody is slow and keeps the rest of the group behind, they'll simply abandon the slower person, and that person is very susceptible to dehydration, to injury, and can succumb, and particularly if they cross in the summer months. We all know that, Arizona is the desert, it's very hot, and it just doesn't take very long at all for the sun to take its toll.
Why do you think we see this increase of anti-immigration sentiment in Arizona?
Well, I don't think it's only in Arizona, but I can speak a bit to it is a chaotic situation in Arizona. We have a porous border. Not only the vast majority of the people that are crossing from Mexico into the United States are economic migrants, what I refer to as economic migrants. These are peaceful people, these are family people, they're often young men, and they have no opportunity in Mexico. There's simply not the work there to feed themselves, to feed their families, so they risk death in the desert to come to the United States. But there is also a small but dangerous population of drug traffickers that do come. And on Palm Sunday of 2010, a rancher was killed by drug traffickers, and that has caused a great stir. This rancher was a longtime rancher in southern Arizona, well-liked, helpful to migrants who crossed and gave them water, but he was killed, and we believe by a drug incident. So people are afraid, and they hear of the violence, and they hear the violence in Mexico regarding the drug trade, and it's this mishmash, and the media exploits it, and so there's a great deal of fear right now, and I think that explains in part the anti-immigration sentiment here in Arizona.
How can the gospel and our Christian faith educate our attitude toward the immigrants?
Well, one, if we have a strong sense of Scripture throughout the Hebrew Scriptures into the New Testament as well, Scripture is very strong in advocating care for the stranger and welcome to those with no home. That is, I'm not making that up. That's in the story of the Hebrew people. They once were slaves in Egypt, and when they inhabited the land of Canaan and they became prosperous and a wealthy people, they were instructed not to forget the immigrant because they too were strangers in a strange land. It's a critical part of their formation as a people. The gospel, Jesus speaks about when I was a stranger, you welcomed me. This is not rocket science. We need to remember these scriptures, and you know, our mission as people of faith, our mission as those who follow Christ, is to build relationships and to work with God to restore the beauty and the original blessing of creation. And when walls are built up, we have to work with God's strength and power and guidance and wisdom to tear those walls down. And that is our call as a people of God, I think, you know.
Today, when all the bishops, the House of Bishops came for dinner with us, I decided to wear a t-shirt that says, "Reform Immigration for America."
Yeah.
Why is it so important that we talk about comprehensive immigration reform?
It's important because it is essential, I believe this. It is essential for this country to recognize the immigration crisis that we face, not as a burden, but as a blessing. To understand that people are coming to this country who want to live here, who want to produce in the society, who want to participate in the economy, who want to build a life for themselves and those they love. It is essential that we see them as a blessing, as a group of people that will contribute and build and continue this story that I believe is a wonderful story. It's not the only wonderful story in the history of the planet, but it is our story, and we have a wonderful place to live. It has many problems, but we have opportunity. But our opportunity is reborn in each generation. It's reborn, I believe, is being reborn again in this current immigration wave. It is in our best interest as a people to welcome, to include, and to be strengthened by their presence. I believe that very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Father Seth.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Dame un abrazo.
Muy bien, con mucho gusto. Hugo. Entonces, ¿cómo va en la, ¿cómo se llama? Carolina Norte?